News, a federal judge in Washington, D.C. has blocked Donald Trump's executive order trying to take over federal elections and impose an illegal and unconstitutional proof of citizenship requirement. Welcome back to Democracy Docket. I'm Marc Elias.
And I'm Paige Moskowitz. Let's get started.
All right, Paige, there are a lot of lawsuits flying around these days against Donald Trump's various illegal activities. Sometimes it's hard to keep track, but there is one really big one for people who care about free and fair elections, and that is a case brought by the Democratic Party, which, in full disclosure, my firm and I represented in this case, as well as a parallel case brought by a group of nonpartisan plaintiffs challenging an executive order that Donald Trump issued to try to take over key aspects of federal election administration. At the heart of that was an effort on his part to impose or force the Election Assistance Commission to impose a proof of citizenship requirement to register to vote. This is a hotly contested issue that Donald Trump has been beating the drum on in an effort to disenfranchise voters. You and I have done videos about this in a number of different contexts, because this is also in the voter suppression bill, the SAVE Act that Republicans are trying to pass. So this is a big decision, a big victory for voters. And Paige, will they ever stop trying to undermine free and fair elections?
Of course not. That is the Republican plan. Now, what the judge explicitly ruled today was that Trump's executive order requiring this proof of citizenship requirement on federal voter registration forms was unconstitutionally trying to get around Congress's power to regulate elections. The judge reiterated throughout her opinion that our Constitution entrusts Congress and the states, not the president, with the authority to regulate federal elections. No statutory delegation of authority to the executive branch permits the president to short circuit Congress's deliberative process by executive order.
Yeah, look, I think the judge got it exactly right on this. And, I thought the place where she said it most plainly was when she said, quote, "The president has no constitutional duty to prescribe the content of election regulations." That's pretty much it in a nutshell. The U.S. Constitution explicitly gives states the right to set the time, place, and manner of federal elections. It then gives Congress the ability to override those decisions by the states through legislation. Donald Trump is neither a state nor is he Congress. He may think he is more powerful than them, but he's not. He does not have the authority in this area. He overstepped in a power grab because he wants to undermine free and fair elections. And it was good to see the federal judge not only rule quickly. This case was heard for preliminary injunction. I think it was heard last week. So this case was decided very, very quickly by the judge, but also a very long opinion and a very comprehensive opinion. She really goes step by step through standing, through justiciability, through the executive order, through all of its different pieces, because she knows that, the administration, the Department of Justice, is not likely going to take hers as a final decision. And she wanted to show her math, and she really did. And again, I am obviously biased in this because I, along with my firm, represented the Democratic National Committee, Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, Democratic Governors Association, Senator Schumer, and Congressman Jeffries. Those were the plaintiffs that we represented. As I mentioned, there were also various nonpartisan plaintiffs in parallel cases. But it really shows, Paige, that, number one, we have to stand up to Donald Trump. Number two, this is not the last effort we're going to see from Donald Trump trying to attack free and fair elections.
Right. The judge highlighted that Trump doesn't have the authority to institute this proof of citizenship requirement for voting, but she did note Congress is currently debating the SAVE Act, which would institute a nationwide proof of citizenship requirement to register to vote for federal elections. Again, it's Congress's power to decide to do that, not Trump to do it through an executive order. The judge today also blocked a provision that required federal agencies to quote unquote assess the citizenship of people that they're interacting with before they provide them a voter registration form. There's a lot of voter registration activities that happen through federal agencies. So those two provisions are blocked as litigation continues. Now, Marc, the ruling today did not block other provisions of the executive order that tried to prohibit states from counting mail-in ballots that come in after Election Day, even if they're postmarked beforehand, and a provision that threatened to cut funding from states that do count those ballots, as well as another provision of the order that provides for data sharing with DOJ about voter registration information and voter data.
Right. To be clear, the judge didn't rule in favor of the government on those. Rather, the judge essentially said that it's too early to decide those questions. That there's that they are not yet ripe or present or properly. There hasn't been enough time, hasn't been enough activity for the court to have to do something, particularly on a preliminary injunction basis. It is interesting that when you list that down, I want to unpack a few pieces of this. I mean, we have the main piece of it, which is the proof of citizenship provision, which is obviously the headline news and what we've just led with. But there is this second provision that the Democratic Party plaintiffs, my clients, brought, the others didn't, which is around this question of whether government agencies need to essentially assess in advance citizenship eligibility before giving people essentially the federal form that they're entitled to. And I want to highlight it not so much because of the details, but rather this is another case in which Republicans have taken on sort of these public assistance agencies. Remember, Paige, I think it was Michigan where the Republicans tried to sue to block the Veterans Administration from even giving these forms out, even like providing
And the SBA.
And the SBA, right? And so, I don't know what you make of that.
It is really interesting because, again, obviously I don't want to say we're biased towards the pro-voting side. Like, we just believe in democracy and say that people should be able to vote. And Republicans don't. And it would make sense that when you're interacting with a federal agency, someone is there saying, oh, by the way, if you want to register to vote, here's the information to do so. And Republicans are just so incredibly against that. They tried to block it at the SBA, at the VA. When under the Biden administration, President Biden issued an executive order directing federal agencies to support voter registration as much as they can to make it available to people when they interact with those agencies, Republicans lost their heads. They claimed that it was unconstitutional. They filed multiple lawsuits. One of the first actions Trump took when he got back into office was to repeal that executive order from Biden. That really all it was saying was when people interact with the federal government and there's a chance to give them the opportunity to register to vote, federal agencies should do so.
Yeah, and I think the other issue we need to unpack here, Paige, is the other big sort of priority of Donald Trump, right? We have the proof of citizenship, which is really just to remind people an effort to disenfranchise millions of Americans, including women who change their name when they get married, they'd be disenfranchised, young voters, more transient voters, anyone without a passport or an original certified birth certificate. You and I have done lots of videos on this. I'm sure we can put the links to those videos in the description of this episode so you can see those. But the other one, which as we said, like the court is deferring on right now, is this issue of counting ballots that are postmarked by Election Day received afterwards. And the executive order sort of relies on a decision out of the Fifth Circuit. And of course, we just did a video on that because that case now looks like it may very well go to the U.S. Supreme Court. So there's a lot of interplay between and among the SAVE Act, the RNC litigating, the Trump executive orders. Like, everyone needs to understand these are not in isolation. There is a Republican war on voting that is going on. There is a Republican attack on democracy that has many fronts. And the voter suppression, election subversion war machine that Donald Trump and the RNC built continues to grind away. And it grinds away in a lot of different places. It grinds away with the SAVE Act in Congress. It grinds away with this executive order. It grinds away with, what secretaries of states are doing in conservative states, what lawsuits are being filed, what comments are being filed. There's just a lot going on multiple fronts. And if you are not subscribed to Democracy Docket, then you are not staying up to date on all of these things. Please take a second here, click on the link above or in the description below, either becoming a free member or a paid member.
Marc, so we got this ruling today from the judge. You hinted at a possible appeal. What happens now?
Yeah, so I don't obviously know that the Trump administration will appeal, although they seem to be appealing everything. So we can take a guess there. So ruled some, enjoined on some provisions and not on others. Now the case will kind of move forward as a whole. If the Department of Justice decides to appeal, they can appeal a preliminary injunction. We've seen lots of instances of that over the course of years with our videos and at Democracy Docket. You can go to their website now and look at cases and see lots of cases where there are appeals of preliminary injunctions. The preliminary injunction, will be in place for some period of time now. It's not, it's not permanent, but it also, if there is an appeal on it, that'll move in the ordinary course, unless, of course, the Department of Justice seeks expedition and gets it. In the meantime, the trial court will continue to hear the case. There could be discovery, or the two sides could essentially stipulate that this is sort of what there is. And particularly if the Department of Justice just wants to get the whole case up on appeal. There are mechanisms for that. We've seen that in other states, like in North Carolina recently, but elsewhere. So a little harder to know exactly how the trial court process will proceed, but it will proceed. But in the meantime, if the Department of Justice wants to appeal, they will do that with the preliminary injunction.
Democracy Docket will continue to track these cases as well as other lawsuits challenging this executive order brought by various Democratic state attorneys general. And you can be sure we'll keep you updated on all of those cases via our free daily and weekly newsletters. You can subscribe at the link above or in the description below.
Yeah, Paige, before we go, I do want to remind everyone that there is an upcoming event that is open to the public that we are doing as part of the 100 days, the first 100 days of Donald Trump. And it is selling out very, very fast. We have a limited number of slots that people can join this. It's a virtual live event. We will have a panel of experts talking about everything that Donald Trump is doing. And we are already just a couple of days into announcing it. We're already nearing that limit. So I want to make sure that people who are, regularly watching us on YouTube have a chance to be part of that audience. So Paige, what do people need to do to make sure they get a reserved slot for that event?
Right. This is a free virtual event next Thursday, May 1st. All you need to do is register to reserve your spot. You can do that at the link above or in the show notes below.
All right. So take a second, become a Democracy Docket member or subscriber, and make sure you sign up also for that free event. Thank you for watching this breaking news edition and episode of Democracy Docket, and we'll see you next time.